that is, I think, very well said when you said that it's cultural appropriation. Like people are appropriating underworld culture, street culture, through at least in this sense, through the snitching terminology. Like it's not snitching unless, in your opinion, it's not snitching unless you're a part of.
No, by definition. Like not in my opinion. Like, I have some different within the culture, right? If you make any statement, it's snitching. Like any statement. So I have my opinion on that within the culture, but it's very much already defined. And people people try to run off and, again, some of these things, like a lot of things that we say is street culture, we make it Black culture. And that's not true. Like snitching is not something within the Black culture. Snitching is within the street culture. There's mafia members, that practice non-snitching that are, pale as a cloud. You know what I'm saying? There's police officers who commit crimes and they have a, don't snitch, because we all know that eventually we may have to do a crime. So I think Black people feel like inherently they have to behave amongst this culture because somehow it's Black culture, and it's not. It's just not. There's Black people who live totally legal. They don't break any laws. Most of them don't. You know what I'm saying? But some of them, I think they get caught up believing either between listening to hip hop or growing up in certain communities, you know what I mean? Like, oh, I have to abide by these rules. These are not your rules, my brother.
In another case, I think we saw that with Meg and Kelsey, right? Like Meg said that she lied to the police first because one, it was 2020. She was scared they were going to shoot everybody up. Very real fear in my opinion.
Hell yeah.
And then
gunshot and they come with guns drawn, yeah, they might shoot.
Right. Yeah. And two, she also said it in, the Black community, we don't talk to the police like that. It's something.
And I don't like that. It's not true. Like there are a ton of places where Black people use law enforcement correctly. Now, I understand those who don't. And Black people and police have a horrible history in this country. I'm not mad at you if you don't employ their services. But I think you do yourself a disservice when you ain't thugging and you do it. Because now you in no man's land. Now you in no man's land and you don't want to be there. You either got to be above the line or below the line. But being on the line, that's going to get you hit.
I think
that was a situation with Meg where I heard her say that. And I was like, you are a college student, female, talking about like you are not a criminal. Why the hell are you talking about somebody called? If somebody called Meg a snitch, something's wrong with that person. It's always some person who's not in the street that will call her a snitch because they don't know what a snitch is. But nobody from the streets, like my homeboys and niggas I know won't be like, oh, Meg snitched. What do you mean? This is a fucking multi-million-dollar entertainer that, took some bullets. We expect you to tell the police.
And then you saw the same, I think, perspective, in my opinion, come through Kelsey's testimony, right? Kelsey had already given it. Apparently, no, it's not apparent anymore. She already gave 80 minutes of. Twice, yeah. She already talked about exactly what happened, right? And then she gets on the stand and all of a sudden she wants to plead the fifth. She gets on the stand, all of a sudden she's asking for immunity. And on the stand, she makes a similar reference about talking to authorities. But then ultimately, it sounds like the only thing she remembered at all from that night, the only thing that was clear to her was that she didn't shoot Meg, right? Mm-hmm. But it feels like that comes from an energy that is still under the umbrella of this idea that, okay, she's sitting on the stand now, pointing the finger at somebody, and she doesn't want to be.
She was lying the whole time, so she had no problem. Yeah, she had no problem lying to the authorities. Either one way or another, she was lying. So I don't think she worried about being a snitch or anything, because if that was the case, she would have told. But I don't know her much, but my personal opinion is you really have no business putting women in street shit. Yeah, I mean, I don't. If you put a woman in some street shit, I mean, you fucking up. You know what I mean? Like, women become mothers. You know what I'm saying? It's just a different, them needing to be around is completely different than us. You know what I'm saying? So I don't even personally, now this is personal, I don't even look at women as snitches. Like, I think you shouldn't commit crime with women.
Mm.
You know what I mean? I think this is not that type of equal opportunity that you should really be doing. You know what I'm saying? That's my opinion. Now, I'm not saying there aren't women that are more solid than men. I'm just saying I wouldn't be the one that's trying to test it.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Because nobody's going to shame her. Nobody's going to shoot her if she told. You know what I mean? Nobody's going to, you know, for the most part, mistreat her like it's a woman.
I remember
again, the cornerstone of those things as rules, right, are built in masculinity. Accountability is the cornerstone of masculinity, not of feminine. You know, women ain't, man, we created a world where women will never be accountable. They don't even want to be accountable for how they face look. They're going to make up and put on, you know, they go in the mirror and put on makeup. They don't want to be accountable for how long their eyelashes are. They have zero desire, you know what I'm saying, to be accountable. That's not their thing. They like whatever it takes to, you know, to not be accountable. You know, that's their thing. And we created that space for them, and I love it for them. But you have to think about this, you know, when you understanding and you looking for things that should be rooted in masculinity to be applied to them.
I remember, you know, the whole Stop Snitching campaign that actually turned into like a brand, right? I used to see those t-shirts all the time. Stop Snitching, right? And around that same time, I remember Cameron on Bill O'Reilly. And Cameron was interviewing Bill O'Reilly about Stop Snitching. And he posed a question to Cameron, saying, what if you live next door to like a serial killer? Would you tell the police that you live next door to a serial killer? And Cameron was like, no. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I remember.
That was like the craziest thing to me. I'm like, okay. Now, Dipset definitely has roots in street culture, underworld culture. Yeah. You know what I mean? And Axe Murderer is definitely different than what I know Dipset to, you know, have been a part of in the underworld, a product of that type of underworld culture. But it's still really extreme to me not to be like, yo, my neighbor is chopping people. My neighbor is Jeffrey Dahmer. I am not saying that's extreme to me.
I had a question like this talking to Van Lathan, and I was explaining to him that, no, you don't call the police. You actually take justice into your own hand. See, that's the part they didn't talk about in that conversation. Like, oh, it was an axe murderer, or it was a mass murder living there. I'm probably going to kill this person. Like, what is this person doing in our community? Go burn his house up. Or is he killing kids? Oh, man, we really going to kill him. We're going to knock him off. You just, police going to show up. He's going to be just fucked over. You know what I mean? Like, that's the part of that street world is you take justice into your own hands. It's pretty much its own set of rules. So that person applies in my life. You know what I mean? He's a serial killer. I might don't know a lot of them. You know what I mean? I might know people who have shot people, you know, in wars, but I don't really know a ton of serial killers, guys who just killed because it's Thursday or whatever, you know what I'm saying? So, but that person now is in my world because they are a criminal. So however we deal with them, the police finds them, and that's just how they find them. So that's the point they didn't get to. They just, oh, if the person lived here, like somebody said, well, what if somebody kidnapped your niece? Would you call the police? I said, no, I got resources. And people thought that was so crazy. I'm like, the police only, you know, train for 6 or 8 weeks. It's not like they're like, you know, they're not Sherlock Holmes, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying I don't have resources within that department to use them too as well. Like, I could use people who work at the precinct just like they can. I have access and roots there to go handle it myself. Most likely, my sister, her mother will call the police. I'm going to find my niece. You know what I'm saying? Again, that was the part missing in that conversation. You take justice into your own hands.
Right.
It's like vigilante justice. That's what most of gang wars is about. It's vigilante justice. So you think that somebody who the whole community could rally behind, you know, could rally against and do something to, like, what you think is gonna happen to, like, if he rapes children, he raped somebody's children on the street. Man, we're gonna cut his shit up. We're gonna cut his life out. You know what I'm saying? You ain't going to jail.
Right.
You going to hell. Right?
Right today.
Today, right today. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna do really bad things to you happily.
Yeah.
You ain't getting no jury. You wish the police would come. You ain't gonna get no jury. You're not getting none of that.
6ix9ine, Snitch.
That's telling, yeah.
That's telling.
Yeah, he was a criminal, and I see a lot of the rhetoric going on from a bunch of people who don't understand. 6ix9ine was a criminal before he met the 9 Trades. He got in trouble. He was selling drugs before. He did all this before he met them. Somehow it's being misconstrued that this has something to do with being a gang member. Well, being a gang member just means you're a criminal. You know, that's the thought behind it. So he was already a criminal. He knew it was telling. He told. He really told, because they was like, look, we gonna charge you with this, and this you did. If you don't tell us what them, and that person did. So that's really telling. He was a criminal going in. He's a criminal coming out.
Mm.
He is not a straight-laced guy.
What do you think is so alluring about underworld culture, underworld terminology to straight people, to people who live a straight life? You know what I'm saying? To non-criminals or non-gang members. What's so alluring about that? Why is it so attractive to embrace these elements, especially from the Black community?
Just a few things. One, we have an affinity for rare things. There ain't a lot of underworld people in this world. Let's be honest. You know, if it's, what is it, 300-400 million people in America, how many of them is underworld? You know, less than 4 million. You know what I mean? I'm sure it's less than 4 million. Most people ain't criminals, so it's a rare thing. It's only so many ghettos. You would think America is filled with ghettos. Like California, it's only so many Watts and East LAs and Comptons. They don't look the part anymore. You know what I'm saying? Just the behavior there is the same. But, you know, it's a rarity. It's something you don't see. It's something that's almost unbelievable. I think that's one part. Two, I don't think it's just us. I think wealthy elite behave the same way. You know what I mean? They run their own program. They don't give a fuck what you say. You know what I mean? They're going to run their own program. You know what I'm saying? Three, poor people seem to be able to, you know, people that come from our communities, poor, not like, when I say, oh, I'm not talking about Black, I'm talking about poor, you know, poor, oppressed, and urban communities. You know, it's more than just Black people in there. We just happen to be the star of the show, but it's more, right? But the thing about our community is we are great at taking losses and making them something to still celebrate. Because you don't have no choice. You can't celebrate your son becoming a doctor, you know, or you can't celebrate getting $100,000. These are not things happening in the community. And even when they happen, it's so rare that you don't even know how to feel about it. Like somebody graduates with a master, and you're like, oh man, that's so far-fetched to even understand. I mean, like, none of my homies graduated with masters. My older sisters graduated with doctorates, but my homies would be like, oh, that's cool. They won't, that's so far out there, you know what I mean, that it's almost weird to celebrate. So you celebrate survival. And I think that's what people hear. A lot of times I think they're like, oh, you're promoting violence. It's like, no, these are soldiers promoting, you're hearing them talk about war stories. You know, people hear drill and they be like, oh, you know, these guys are promoting violence, Black on Black violence. No, they're promoting surviving circumstances and doing whatever it took to survive them. Yeah, we don't celebrate serial killers. Like, who's a serial killer rapper? Like, he could rap, like, Brother Lynch and them kind of make jokes about it, but it's like, who actually really is like, yeah, I just killed this kid on his birthday, and then we like, hey, that shit is jamming. That's not jamming, bro. You know what I'm saying? You're listening to guys talk about eliminating guys that they're at war with. Like when America, you know, last year when they killed, you know, one of the main guys from Al-Qaeda that was responsible for the Twin Towers, and Joe Biden comes on the news, you know, the president comes on the news, and he's like, yeah, we got him. You know, it took us 20 years, but we got him. You know, and it was a celebration. Well, that's what you're hearing with these rappers in their community. You know, them talking about guys who they feel are actively pursuing their demise, like physically. And it's like, no, but I did what I had to do to survive. And however many of these niggas want to try, I'm going to show them, and I'm going to be aggressive, and I'm going to make sure I'm going to survive. And I think there's a brilliance in it. You know what I mean? I think there's a desire in it. Again, it's such the ultimate cinematic, it's the ultimate sense of masculinity. You know what I mean? Like, damn, that person overcame that, or he did that, or, you know, blah, blah, blah. Like you love it, you root for it because it's being a man at its chorus, most primitive, you know, place. Right at the, like, and so you hear like somebody, oh man, they brag about going to jail. No, they're not bragging about going to jail, right? They're bragging about surviving jail. Because it's a dangerous place and you can die. You know what I'm saying?
Word. Yo, I mean, that's deep, and I really appreciate your perspective and your time, man. Is there anything else you want to add or anything you missed around this?
No, sir. No, sir.
Yeah, man. All right, I appreciate you. And look, I think that it's great to have clarity around it, right? You know, if it's not part of underworld culture, it's not snitching, and don't merge the two.
What are you doing? Like,
don't merge the two. Ain't nothing cool about it.
You're supposed to tell the police. That's what you pay in this society for. The homegirl hit me. She was like, yeah, somebody jacked my son's chain. I got my older brother coming over. He's from another gang, and you know he's going to get at that gang. I'm like, call your brother back. Tell him don't come over there. Call the fucking police. Why would you escalate a crime into another crime when you don't want to commit one crime? That's another thing. Like, I feel bad for a lot of gangsters when they had a square family coming to tell them, and then they escalated. Like, I had a really close friend, my homie Sharky James. He just got out probably within the last 5 years, 6 years. He got 23 years. Somebody was abusing his female cousin, her boyfriend. We go over there the first time to do something to him. We're going to beat him up. We don't catch him. He go back over there the second time. He got a gun now because she done got beat up real bad. Bad. He go over there with a gun. My homeboy Shanti and another homie, they go over there and they get into it with the dude and they pop him. You know what I mean? You beating on my cousin, I'm going to shoot your stupid ass. Shoot him. The man pressed charges. His fucking female cousin who was getting abused is coming to court with the nigga pressing charges. And you're the reason she went over there. I feel bad for niggas trying to, that's another situation, you know, where you're trying to exist in another world. You know what I'm saying? Like, if I'm not gonna fuck you up over doing something to my female relatives, you know what you call the police. Show me you, if you don't want to put this nigga in jail, you for sure don't want to put this nigga in hell, so why are you calling me? You don't want, like, it ain't like if I whoop his ass, he gonna stop. He already too stupid. And if I shoot him, you know, the reason they not calling the police because they don't want to put him in jail. That means you still fuck with this nigga. So you got to get your hands together, you know, get your squabbles right. You know what I'm saying? Or you got to show me that you really don't want to be in this situation.
Right. Word up. That's real talk.